Asterisk. The 7 hidden levels of wealth. You're standing in the aisle of a supermarket, holding 2 different brands of pasta, doing mental gymnastics over a 90-cent difference. This isn't just being broke. This is financial asphyxiation. Society tells you the solution is simple: just make more money. But what they absolutely refuse to tell you is what happens to your mind when you actually do. There are 7 distinct altitudes of wealth. Each one has a hidden trap, a brutal psychological shift, and a toll it exacts on your soul. Today we are mapping the entire journey from absolute zero to the untouchable realms of the ultra-wealthy. And I promise you, the top of the mountain looks nothing like you think. Level 1. The oxygen deficit at level 1. Money is not a tool. Money is oxygen. When you are hovering near zero, your entire relationship with capital is driven by pure panic. You memorize your checking account balance to the exact cent. You play a dangerous game of financial Tetris, moving cash from savings to checking just to let a $40 charge clear, only to move it back before the weekend. You aren't making financial decisions here. You are making emotional reactions. Then one day, you finally manage to break the cycle. You pay off that suffocating high-interest debt. You hoard cash. You look at your app, and for the first time in your life, you see a 5-figure balance. $10,000. You stare at it. You don't spend it. The sheer psychological gravity of having 10 grand makes you feel untouchable. You feel like a completely different species of human. But here is the brutal reality: you haven't won the game yet. You've just paid the entry fee to level 2. Level 2. The velvet cage. At this stage, you become the poster child for doing everything right. You max out your retirement accounts. You read the mainstream finance books. You build the emergency fund. Your income creeps up to $70,000, maybe $85,000 a year. You feel secure, until one night, you sit down with a blank spreadsheet. You map out your future. You calculate 30 years of disciplined, frugal saving. You look at the final number at the bottom of the column, and your stomach drops. It's enough to survive. It's enough to die comfortably. But it is not freedom. This is what I call the competence plateau. You have mastered the art of not drowning, but you have no idea how to sail. You suddenly realize the darkest secret of the middle class. A salary is just a ceiling disguised as a safety net. To escape, you have to break the rules you just spent years mastering. Dostric Level 3. Escape velocity. You stop asking for raises and start building leverage. You launch a side hustle. You don't call it a startup, it's just a quiet obsession that eats your weekends. Slowly, it bleeds cash into your life. $500 a month. Then $2,000, your net worth crosses $150,000, and a violent shift happens in your reality. Time is no longer measured in hours, it's measured in compounding potential. Every hour you spend watching Netflix is an hour your personal money printing machine is turned off. But this is also where things get incredibly lonely. You start declining the overpriced destination weddings. You opt out of the expensive group dinners where you end up subsidizing your friends' drinks. You say no. Your friends think you're getting cheap. They think you're obsessed. What they don't understand is that you are no longer spending money to maintain social status. You are hoarding capital to buy your own autonomy. You take your first major financial hit. Maybe a $15,000 loss on a bad investment. And to your surprise, you don't care. You realize that avoiding risk guarantees mediocrity. The top isn't about dodging risk, it's about choosing which risks are worth bleeding for. Level 4, the anti-climax. You finally hit it. The holy grail. The 7-figure mark. One random Tuesday, your portfolio updates, and there it is, $1 million. You expect fireworks, you expect an identity shift, you expect to feel free. Instead you feel nothing. Followed closely by a chilling wave of logic. If you apply the standard 4% withdrawal rule, $1 million yields $40,000 a year. That's barely minimum wage in most major cities. This is the great identity crisis of the newly rich. The milestone was never the destination. It was simply the proof of concept. You stop attending those flashy networking events. You realize the people loudly bragging about their hustle are the ones still trapped in level 3. You start seeking smaller rooms. Rooms with no name tags, where people speak quietly about capital allocation, not grind culture, because at this level, money stops being a source of anxiety and becomes exactly what it was always meant to be, a raw material. Level 5, the Time Lords at $5 million, the texture of the game fundamentally changes. You are no longer building wealth, you are positioning it. You stop working for capital and start directing it like an army general moving troops across a map. But the real flex at this stage has nothing to do with cars, watches, or mansions. It is the absolute, unadulterated command of your own time. You take a month-long trip to Japan and don't check your email once. The machine you built continues to spit out cash, whether you are awake, asleep, or completely off the grid. You stop talking about money with people who don't have it. Not because you're an arrogant elitist, but because the language no longer translates. To a normal person, $500,000 is lottery money. To you, it's a minor position size to hedge against a real estate deal. If you say that out loud, you become the villain. So, you learn to stay silent. Level 6. The altitude of isolation. Welcome to the stratosphere. At $30 million, your reputation becomes a financial instrument that prints money completely independent of your actions. You are invited to closed-door meetings, not to be polite, but because your capital and your pattern recognition are lethal weapons. But there is a dark side to this altitude. You make a decision to hold your position in a company that just laid off 200 people. You know the executives, you know families will struggle, your margins improve, your net worth spikes, and you feel distant. The gap between your decisions and the human consequences of those decisions has become a massive canyon. You don't lose sleep over it, you just accept it. The game requires your positioning, not your emotions. Your friends from your past life can't reach you anymore. They can't comprehend the stress of structuring dynasty trusts or navigating global tax regulations. You haven't changed as a person, but your context has become completely untranslatable. The isolation is deafening. Architects Level 7. The architect, at $80 million, $100 million, and beyond. Money ceases to be a measure of your worth. It becomes a measure of your geopolitical reach. You don't think in financial quarters. You think in generational cycles. You are watching demographic shifts and infrastructure pipelines a decade before they happen. You move capital the way a grandmaster moves chess pieces, 3 steps ahead of the global economy. You sit in a boardroom with 4 other people. Collectively, you control enough capital to bankrupt a mid-sized country. You speak for 3 minutes. You ask a single question. Entire industries pivot based on that question. There is no shouting. There is no flashy wealth. Power at this level is entirely compressed and eerily quiet. The loop. And right now as you watch this, somewhere in the world, there is a 23-year-old standing in a grocery store. They are holding 2 jars of peanut butter. They are doing the math. They are choosing the cheaper one. They think that if they just make more money, everything will be solved. They have no idea about the isolation, the distance, and the completely different person they will have to become to survive the climb. The machine doesn't care if you're ready. It simply opens for business every morning, waiting to see who has the patience, the ruthlessness, and the endurance to play. The game always starts at 0. Your move. If this video shifted your perspective on money, hit subscribe. We decode the hidden psychology of wealth in 2 videos a week. Stay sharp and I'll see you in the next one.